Hi, I'm Matt.
And I'm Corey.
Welcome to Tech Tested. Corey came to us with a $1,000 budget and asked us to design him a computer that was good for video editing and for gaming at 1440p. We collected the parts, but we're going to make him build it for you guys.
Let's do it.
So as you guys know, we have built a computer in the Corsair Air 240 case before, and while we love this case, we know you guys probably don't enjoy watching build logs throughout the same case over and over again. So we're gonna orient this a little bit differently. First, I'm gonna explain the computer components that we chose and why we chose them, and then we're gonna have somebody who's never built a computer before build one for you. But first to the components. Corey came to us with a $1,000 budget and asked us to build him a computer that not only did well in video editing, but also is great at gaming at 1440p, which means not only do we need a strong CPU for the editing, but a very fast graphics card. That's a pretty tall order for $1,000. First for the graphics card, at 1440p, the 1070 really can't be beat today. You don't need something faster, and it's strong enough hopefully to carry him into the next generation or so. It also helps that it's a GTX video card by NVIDIA because the program he uses for video editing is accelerated by CUDA. So we definitely had to go with NVIDIA this time. As for the processor, I initially wanted to go with an i7-5820K on an X99 platform because it would give us 2 extra cores and 4 extra threads. However, since his programming can take advantage of CUDA, I thought it was important to go with a more powerful graphics card, and we could actually step down to a Haswell-based Xeon that has 4 cores and 8 threads. The advantages we get from going down to a locked Haswell Xeon and a cheaper motherboard was that we could save money and go with the better graphics card instead of a 1060, which would probably not last very long at 1440p. The other components are pretty typical. We've got 16 gigabytes of 1600 megahertz DDR3 RAM. I know we could have gone with a higher clocked memory, but we also got a set that has pretty low latency, so I think that was worth the trade-off. We also have a 240 gig SSD. The 120 gigs have fallen out of favor, and so we decided to go with 240. We also have a 1 terabyte storage drive. Now, while that may seem small for a video editing rig, Corey has a lot of external hard drives that we are going to be able to utilize, so he didn't need the high capacity internal drive, which saved us enough money to get the Cooler Master Gemini M4, which will keep his acoustics down as the stock Intel CPU cooler can tend to get a little bit loud when there's a very taxing workload on the processor. And without further ado, let's get on to the build in our ever-beloved Air 240 computer case. Have fun, buddy.
Thanks.
I'll tell you if you're gonna screw something up big time, but other than that, this is all you. And I'm gonna try not to cringe.
Okay, wish you luck.
Actually, in order to make more room, I'm gonna move these components out of his way.
Yep.
Yeah. Here's your hard disk drive. Here's your SSD. Here is your power supply.
Cool.
We are gonna have to pull this off. This is actually pretty ingenious. We've done one video with this case. I don't know if you saw that video, but probably would have helped if you had watched that video. This is where your hard disk drives will go, and this caddy has all of your screws and everything in it. Okay. So you can also, I'll let you pull that out. Yeah, we've only got 1 fan header? 2. I chose this NZXT power supply because initially we were going with a different case that would have it exposed, and I thought the white colors would look nice. I also was not aware that it had the mustard and ketchup on the 24 pin. That was my mistake. I tried to get a power supply that didn't have that. However, push comes to shove, he or we can get a cable extension that actually will look perfectly fine in this case. So we can fix my screw up, which is not a screw up, it's still a good power supply. So the advantage we have of the modular power supply is nothing is plugged in initially, which in this case is not as big of an issue, but typically that comes in very handy that you don't have extra cables filling in space, preventing airflow. This case, because it has the dual chambers, it's not a big issue, but like I said, because we initially designed this computer for a different case, it would have been. So this is definitely a good option to go for a modular power supply if you can. Okay, next we are going to hook up the SATA cables for the SSD, not the ones that go to the motherboard, but the power SATA that go to the hard drives. So, have at it. This is a brand new motherboard, has not been opened. We can install the I/O shield.
Matt always forgets the I/O shield.
So that's why this is relevant. It's here! This essentially, oh, I've never seen it with this padding before. This is the I/O shield. This is a cutout for the back of your case that not only labels, but protects everything on the back of your motherboard. And I/O stands for interface. I don't know what I/O stands for.
Is it input output?
Yeah.
Input output. I don't know. I'm an idiot. So anyway. So the next step is, because we installed everything in the back chamber before we installed the motherboard, means we're actually going to have to install the CPU and CPU cooler prior to installing it in the case. If we wanted to do it in the case, we could, but you have to leave out the power supply and the hard drive cages in order to get that done on the Air 240. So just something to keep in mind if you're building in this case or any other case. The Gemini M4 requires a back plate that makes it difficult to install with other components in the case. And that top black cover should, in theory, pop out.
There's quite a bit of pressure, right?
Yes, there is quite a bit of pressure.
Yeah, okay.
I thought the same thing on my first Intel build. So the next step is we need to not only remove the little sticker from the bottom of the CPU cooler, but we need to apply thermal paste. Now, the way you do this is you take the lid off and you squeeze about a small pea size in the center of the CPU. And then when you apply pressure from the CPU cooler, it should spread the thermal paste out on the heat spreader on the processor and the CPU cooler in order to dissipate heat best. Okay, so something we noticed while putting this back plate on for the CPU cooler is that there are cutouts for Intel socket CPUs. We didn't realize this when we initially put it on. We had it turned around and it wasn't seating properly. So after brief observation, we were able to turn it around, get things seated. Just something to keep in mind if you're ever building on an Intel platform with this CPU cooler. Now we have your CPU cooler installed, and while we have it out in the open, I think it's a good idea to install our RAM. So, interesting fact while looking through the manual, it says due to Intel chipset limitations, DDR3 1600 MHz and higher memory modules on XMP mode will run at the maximum transfer rate of DDR3 1600 MHz. So a faster set of RAM would have still yielded the same frequency, but would have likely had a higher latency. So going with a lower latency 1600 MHz kit is actually the best move we could have made for this setup. We looked through the manual and didn't find any indicator as to which two slots we should install the RAM, but we also know that we want to run in dual channel, so we will going to fill each of the yellow slots. Some motherboards do have preferences, but this particular one doesn't seem to indicate any. So these are the ones we're going to occupy due to ease of access. There you go.
Okay, we're gonna try to install the motherboard now. Hopefully I don't mess anything up. Line up the I/O.
All right, Corey.
Get over here.
Next step, you're gonna need this, this, and this. Okay. This is the cable for your 24 pin on your motherboard. This is your graphics card cable, which we will be installing in a little bit, and this is for your CPU. Get at it.
All right.
Right now, Corey is attempting to install the front I/O. We will eventually find out if he got it right. I don't know. We'll see.
Fingers crossed.
So I wasn't thinking ahead, and he's got a nice beefy graphics card, a GTX 1070 put in here, and with the layout we had, these wires would all get in the way. So we're going to disconnect them until we get the 1070 installed, and we will decide where they go from there. Okay, right now we're just routing some of the fan connectors, so that makes it easier to fit on the motherboard. We also removed one fan because we only had 3 fan headers, one for the CPU and 2 case fans. So one of the extra fans was unnecessary, so we just pulled it out. We use these hooks on either side of the CPU cooler. This gets pulled down and pulled past this port, and there's a little ridge in there that it clips onto. Next, we've got to install your graphics card power cable, which we've already installed here, but has to be run through to the front and plugged in right here. So I'm gonna pass it through to you, and you can go ahead and plug it in. Now you'll see that that is a 3+1, or 6+2, I should say. And the clip is on the top, so you're gonna have to run it like that. Plug in just fine. Might be a little stiff the first time, but there. All right. So looks like Corey's done a pretty good job of putting this computer together, but there are some cable management issues that we're going to address. I'm going to go ahead and try to make it as pretty as possible.
Okay, I'm gonna try to power it up now and see if I did anything wrong.
Just one thing.
First step. Still power strip maybe? Take 2. So that's already, or no. Yep, there we go.
This was a really fun build. Again, sorry for doing the Air 240 again, but this is for a friend, and this was the case he chose, which is perfectly acceptable. We know why he chose it. We are going to head off to Josh's place. We're going to install Windows, and probably not going to be able to show you guys having fun with this computer, but obviously you guys know what kind of powerful hardware we're running, so thank you for tuning in. So what are your thoughts?
It was a lot easier than I expected. Having the guidance, the expertise here really helped put my mind at ease while I'm trying to put the components in, expensive components in, but it's something I think I could do in the future and probably upgrade.
Thanks for watching. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Leave a comment if there's anything you'd like us to cover in the future. Check out our podcasts wherever you find your podcasts, and check out our forum at techtested.io.